Everybody going? Morning, Monday morning.
Morning.
Quiet.
Morning.
You're up already. Good job.
I'm at the hardware store already, not only up.
You're already moving. You're not only up, you're doing it. Good job. Well, the early bird gets the worm. I used to hate that in high school because my last name was Byrd, and they were always like, Bird gets my worm, Bird gets my early worm, and I hated it. I was like fighting over it, but now it's like true. Early bird does get the worm. But good morning, everybody. I just wanted to, really check in with you today. And I just did a Monday Morning Mojo a few minutes ago, and we were talking about a couple things, but I brought up Russia and what Russia's decision to invade Ukraine, non-political, nothing to do with that. But what's the implications for it on the business world stage? And I had some things I was going to share with you. It's a little bit redundant if you saw my thing this morning, but think about this for a minute. The decision, okay, today's my vision for today's call is being authentically you, right? Be authentically you. Who are you and who do you want to be? Who's your avatar in real estate business? And think about what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, away from any of the political touchings on it, nothing. But the ramifications from that decision to invade Ukraine, think about this. Starbucks will close all 130 Russian locations and exit the country after 15 years. 130 locations. McDonald's is seeking a buyer for its 850 restaurants in Russia, ceasing operations in Russia. The industrial giant Siemens is leaving Russia, which is, I think, in the energy sector, 3,000 employees. Nokia, the supplier for all the telecom equipment in Russia, is exiting the country. Anheuser-Busch is selling their Russian joint venture, losing $1.1 billion with an impairment charge on their taxes over that. The world's largest brewer. Burger King is halting corporate structure support on 800 restaurants in Russia, basically leaving the franchise system in Russia. And these are not all the bad things and the people that are given money. These are strictly companies deciding that we don't want to be in business. Microsoft, parent company, and LinkedIn suspending all sales. Goldman Sachs leaving Russia, the first major Wall Street bank. And it's also a reversal. Deschutes Bank decided to leave after saying they would stay. Political pressure, probably. Oracle, all Russia operations ceased. Exxon, stopping all Russia productions. It just goes on. And Nike closing all the stores in Russia. Adobe halted all new sales to Russia. It goes on and on and on. Boeing, I think, is a big one. Boeing airplanes ceased to provide parts, maintenance, and technical support service to any airline in Russia. Think about the impact of that when maybe a significant part of the industry is running in those particular planes. It's just General Motors suspended all business with Russia. Shell will end its $3 billion partnership with Russia. BP is divesting all $14 billion stake in Russia. Disney, Warner Brothers, everybody, FedEx and UPS suspended shipments to Russia. Twitter, Elon Musk. It's just unbelievable what the world is doing, both in a humanitarian and in a place of helping. But think about the economic impacts of that decision, that one decision that may be a big decision that came into a lot of moving parts. But from the outside looking in, look at how that's changed the country for generations, likely, with big businesses and people that were involved in that. So the reason I bring this message up today and on the coaching call is, what are you doing in your business? And is it having far-reaching impacts in who you're trying to attract or who your perfect avatar customer is, right? Do they know what your battle cry is? Do they know what your business plan is? Do they know that you're being your authentic self and then you're attracting those people with the same drive that you have, or the authentic piece of you that you're showing the world, right? Or are you just hiding under the radar? Are you really taking advantage of the fact that you have a $1 million company at your fingertips? And if you've got $1 million mind, which you do, you have $1 million capability in your fingertips, regardless what company you're with, in the operational piece of real estate. building a team and leveraging and all the things real estate offers. It's a beautiful, beautiful industry for entrepreneurs that are going after it. There's literally no ceiling, but are you taking advantage of that ceiling? Or are you looking at your own business saying, you know what, I am kind of skating, or I'm living in fear, or I'm living in what happens over here. All we can control are the things you're have in your hands. The steering wheel on your hands is the only thing you can control. So be authentically you, whatever that you is, be authentically you. Your avatar, your perfect customer will align and find you with that if you put it out there enough, right? If it's like, I love working with first sell by owners, or I love doing open houses, or I love helping people get into investment properties, or I love making money and I just don't want to do a lot of deals, that's okay too. That was my story. And that was my authentic self. So rather than getting up there and going, I love my customers, I love going into Safeway, which I do, but my real passion, my real drive was the transaction, was the deal, was the real estate piece of the investment pie, right? Not that I don't love them. I need to love them to have an operational business that's valuable, but that wasn't my why. So I wasn't going to speak of that on truth. Right? I wanted to do 100 deals a year because I'm going to impact 100 people in financial benefit. Right? So find out what your avatar is. Find out what your authentically you is. I think that will be super valuable. And then think about it. Change every room you walk in. When you walk in a room, do you just radiate and draw energy to you just because you're happy, helpful, forgiving, generous, whatever it is? Or are you a suck? Do you walk into a room and just suck the energy right out of the room because you're bitchy and pissed, or what's going on? Right? We're always looking. People are always looking. And if you're lucky, it will stay off social media. But if you act that way and it gets caught on social media, your career could be impacted, right? We've seen lots of people go down in flames because they got recorded on how they really felt about something when they didn't know they were, or didn't expect it to go where it went. So when I say authentically self, be the same person off camera that you are on camera. You're going to attract those people to your business. Impacting others' lives around you will help everything. It will help them. It will leave an impression on them, but you're also doing the right thing. I have a story from yesterday. The girls, when we were having breakfast in bed, didn't know what was going on, but in my head, I was really battling with something. And, in hindsight, it sounds stupid, but we went to a breakfast restaurant that was completely slammed, busy. And in Bend, obviously, beautiful day, Sunday morning. And I drove around the parking lot 2-3 times, couldn't find a spot. Went and finally parked way out on the street. My Mozzie, I wanted a little closer to me, and I'd like to be able to look out the window and see it at least, but it is what it was. But I parked it over there, and then we walked in the restaurant, put our name in. And after just a couple minutes, this parking spot right in the front, like perfectly shaded, the sky opened up and this perfect spot opened up for me, and there's nobody in the parking lot. So I kind of shimmy shaked out to my car, grabbed it real quick, flipped a real quick U-turn, came in the lot in the back way, legal, but came in the back way to pull into the spot on the backside of the lot. And there was this lady that happened to be coming in at the same time. Well, to her, it looked like I cut through and like backed in, went the wrong direction. Everybody was parked forward and I went this way in it. And she goes, what the frick? And started. And I'm like, whatever, dude. Find another spot. I was like giving her hand gestures, right? I wasn't flipping her off. But after she went by, she still stared at me and gave me another couple, didn't flip me off, but gave me some like, wow, what an asshole type thing. And so we go in the restaurant, waits 45 minutes still, right? So we're sitting in the car doing all this. Guess what? Guess where I get seated in the restaurant? Directly. God put me directly next to her on purpose. I promise you. And I was like, and not only next to her, but Kirsty and I were sitting here, her mom and her sister were sitting there, and the lady was directly between their heads right there facing me. And she looked at me and looked away and looked at me again. And I had my hat on with my sunglasses on my hat, but in my car, I had my sunglasses on. And I was like, dude, that's the lady. That's the lady. And it was just super awkward. It was really uncomfortable. And I was sitting there and they were talking. I wasn't paying attention. And they were like, are you listening? And I'm like, I'm sorry. My mind was literally, it was out there. And I was like, I'm going to walk up and apologize. I'm going to like, who do I want to be? Right? Who do I want to freaking be? Do I want to be that dude? Or do I want to like, call out my mistakes? And even though there's an argument, she didn't know the whole story. There's an argument, but it didn't matter. Her experience was that's how her Sunday started. And she had her husband and her kid there, and her husband never made eye contact with me once. He probably was aware of the situation, but so I sat there and I thought, I go, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to probably just go over and apologize, but that would have made it awkward too. So what I did is I told the waitress, I said, hey, I got their breakfast, but don't tell them. I don't want them knowing anything. And then when we got done eating, the girls saw me leave to the kitchen to tell the girls, because it was two waitresses. I want to make sure one got the tip, and I did just transfer the checks. I was trying to think of all the situations. And she's like, oh, that's so nice. And I'm like, actually, I cut her off in the parking lot. She deserves it. Really, whatever. So everybody gets up and leave. I circle around and I lean down to the table and I go, I just wanted to let you know that I think I cut you off in the parking lot. I didn't think it felt that way because I was already there and I came in from the back way, but to you, it looked like I cut you off and I was a jerk, and a jerk's a jerk. And I'm sorry. I just wanted to apologize. Honestly. She's like, that's very sweet. And she started to explain, and I just said, no need to explain. Everything's cool. I just wanted to apologize that happened. And, I'm just really sorry. I go, I was already in the parking lot and I was already waiting for that spot when you came in the front entrance. So it looked like I just didn't care about you, but I really was already there. But anyway, have a great day. And I left, and they were like, oh, that was sweet. And as I was walking away, I could hear the son go, was that the guy? And she's like, yeah. And that was very sweet. So I didn't do it because I have real estate business there. I didn't do it because, I got outed. I did it because it was the right thing to do. And I felt like internally that was the right thing to do. That's my avatar. That's the avatar of who I want to be. But I'm also half hood, half holy, right? I have my moments when I'm like, fight, let's fight, let's whatever. I'm willing to fight or be competitive or otherwise. But in this particular case, I didn't need to pull out to give her my space. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the reaction to it created a lot of drama for me and her, that obviously there was tension there, right? And it could have been her tension. It didn't have to be mine, but I did what I could on my side. And so what comes up for me, that's a vulnerable story to tell, right? That's not something that is great to share, because I have 90% of me is super fun, super gracious, super giving. I buy stuff for people all the time and I like doing it. I don't need the recognition from it, but it's that 10% where I go, wow, did I live in my best life? Did I live in, do I change the room when I walk into the good or the bad? Right. And so the energy that I brought into the restaurant was bad, and it may have impacted their Sunday morning breakfast with them. Who knows? Right? Maybe it didn't. Maybe it was just a blip on the radar, but it impacted me, because for 20 minutes I was in a story of like, this sucks, right? And so for me, I just want to really focus on what can we do to build our businesses in a place of brick by brick. How do we want to build this wall when we're done? What do we want this wall to look like? That is our fortress, that is our castle, that is our legacy, right? And so I have a little short video I want to show you guys. It's literally like 2 minutes long, but I want to show it to you because to me, it's impactful, and it's along the lines of what I'm talking about and how I feel, right? So I'm going to play this video. Let me start it, and I'll share my screen real quick. Okay, here we go. Pay attention to this and the message.
One year, my father had his shop, and he decided for whatever reason that he wanted a new wall on the front of his shop. So he tore down probably about 16 feet high and probably about 30 feet long. He just completely tore the wall down, and my brother and I had to dig a 6-foot hole. We
For the foundation.
For the foundation, and we would mix in the concrete by hand. A year and a half. We were building this wall for a year and a half. Every day after school, we would come in, mixing concrete, putting it in the hole, doing it. And it was just myself and my little brother. And I remember standing back, looking at that wall, saying, there's going to be a hole here forever. A year and a half later, we laid the final brick. And my father stood back, and he looked at me and my brother and said, now, don't y'all never tell me that you can't do something. And walked into the shop. And I learned very young, you don't try to build a wall. You don't set out to build a wall. You don't say, I'm going to build the biggest, baddest, greatest wall that's ever been built. You don't start there. You say, I'm going to lay this brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid. There will not be one brick on the face of the earth that's going to be laid better than this brick that I'm going to lay in this next 10 minutes. And you do that every single day. And soon you have a wall. And soon you have a wall. And I think psychologically, the advantage that gives me over a lot of people that I have been in competition with in different situations is it's difficult to take the first step when you look how big the task is. The task is never huge to me. It's always one brick.
Me too. I mean, it is amazing how people are paralyzed.
I love that. And what do you get out of that? What do you get out of that story of Will Smith, which I love Will Smith. He's always been one of my top guys on the planet. And we're going to talk about his identity crisis right now, right? But when you listen to that video, what stands out to you?
He recognized that if you take it one step at a time, one bite at a time, you can accomplish anything. Look at the work that you're going to do each day and focus on that. And then you end up with the big project done.
That's exactly right. And also you get to look back at what you've accomplished when you don't focus on the end result. It's easy to quit. In a year and a half, think about that, him and his little brother. And I could see exactly Will doing that. And persistence and consistent. Yes, that all comes up for me. It's discipline. His dad was teaching him discipline. It wasn't child labor. It was discipline, right? And discipline for a year and a half. That's a massive undertaking. And I love that story. And it's brick by brick. That's how we build our business. But on the theme of today, think about that. His one situation, which was significant because of, being as publicized and live as it was with Chris Rock slapping him. I think it was at the Emmys. Has that not changed his career probably forever? A 3-second decision, a 5-second, 10-second decision. Did he have one cocktail that made him do that? Did he have a bad day? Did they touch on something that was his battle in his head that wasn't somebody else's battle? We've heard 1,000 times worse than that on stage from other people, right? But for whatever reason, it triggered Will, which happens to be one of my favorite actors on the planet. He's probably in my top 3 of all time in my life. I really like that guy, resonate with the guy. I don't like what he did. I didn't look at it like some violent act of trying to kill somebody like people are playing it as well. It was a slap, but the slap was, it stood for something. It stood for wrong. It stood for, where are we if somebody could just come up there and basically assault or hit somebody? And that's what he's living with. He's going to live with that for the rest of his life in movie opportunities and other business opportunities and brand deals. This is similar to me as Russia, Ukraine, right? If you think about how big and how far reaching that is for past our lifetimes, it's going to be in our second children's lifetimes that they're still going to be correcting what's going on over there and getting stabilization to it. And same thing with Will's career. So when you look at that, what are you laying brick by brick? Just think about your own businesses for a minute. What are you laying brick by brick? What are you working on every single day that is a brick that's the perfect brick in the universe that's laid for tomorrow and next week and next month and next year? And are you looking at like, oh, this market's tough. This market's tough. I really missed an opportunity in the last 2 years in the best market in history. Or maybe you did take an opportunity to seize the moment, but you struggled with your family or divorce, or you haven't seen your kids, or your health is out of whack. Whatever it is, right? They're all related. And so when I look at this, I want to build brick by brick, and I want that brick to be in place as perfect as it can be for all the information, all the talent, all the skills I have today. Because if you start building a brick wall like he described today, you're not going to be as good as you are going to be in a year. by systems and processes and practice and tools, and right? You learn a little trowel that you get to put between the bricks. You didn't know about at the beginning, you used your finger. Whatever it is, you're learning as you're moving in this. And that's why this subject's passionate to me, because I believe that all of you guys, all of you ladies on this call have that at your fingertips. It's just look back over the last week. Did you lay bricks last week that are building your foundation and future? Right? Are you willing to work 6 feet underground for 3 or 4 months before you even get to the surface? Then the neighbors could see your bricks, because nobody could see them underground for 6 feet. But if you don't have that foundation, the high rise is not staying up, right? And so I look at that as a response to your business, being authentically you, really, focusing on how you're going to change and impact people's lives. By the way, it makes you attractive. If you're building a real estate team, other agents are going to be attracted to the way you do business. If you're a sourpuss, jackass, and you try to be all that, it's my listing, call me when I tell you to, don't touch this, don't email me, do this, do that. Is that attractive or not? Right? It may be necessary. It may be the market's kind of asking you to be that way, but it didn't matter. If I had 40 listings and somebody called on, I tried to give them time of day. I tried to at least give boundaries of when I'm available, right? Instead of don't call me, text me. That's been going on a lot in this market. You can't even get a hold of the agents. What is the identity and the brick by brick wall are they building, right? Is it a fortress to keep you out? So celebrate your progress in this brick by brick. Don't try not to celebrate perfection or look for perfection. Just focus on the progress. Celebrate the progress that you laid a brick perfectly today. And then you did it again tomorrow. And then you have a week of perfectly laid bricks that you're proud of, right? And the last piece of this for me is I'm always like tracking with the book I'm reading. Right now I'm reading Essentialism. And Essentialism in the first few pages was kind of like, quit doing everything you don't want to do so you can focus on the things that are important, right? That's pretty basic. But as I'm digging into the book, I'm really starting to understand the real value of it and the dynamics and the psychology behind just saying no to a lot more things that are out of your lane of who you are and who you want to be, right? It may be things that antagonize you. If you're not a good human being on alcohol and you hang out at bars, that's antagonizing you, right? If that's your comfort spot and that's your people you're hanging around with, that may be antagonizing your $1 million brain or your $1 million body opportunity. Maybe it's food, right? If you hang around people that don't respect food, it's hard for you to respect food. Eric's wife's a guru around food. She's a health, superstar, brilliant. And so by being around her, I'm more conscious about food. I'm more conscious about knowledge and I'm learning, right? So if I want to be purposeful about food, that's a good one to hang around with on purpose, right? And then the ones that are bad to hang around with equally, right? But to me, essentialism is really focusing on the big rocks, the big things in your business that are most important. Right now, I believe in a coaching perspective, communicating with your SOI is number one. Without question, there's too much going on in the world without you staying in touch with them. They're looking for it somewhere. They're Googling it, or they're looking for it, or they're stumbling on realtor.com, Zillow, or somewhere else if they're looking for housing information. But you've got to be that avatar for them. You've got to be the one that's purposefully reaching out to them, wrapping your arms around them, saying, hey, you're in my circle. I'm just taking care of you. Do you have any questions about what's going on in the market? Do you have any questions on rates? Do you have any questions on speculation? Do you have any questions on inventory? Do you have any questions on buying, selling, investing, or renting? I can help with. Right? You've heard me say this before. When you inspire a conversation, somebody goes, how's the market? Don't just ramble off about how hot it is or cold it is or crazy it is. Ask them questions. Ask them those questions to get deeper information. Hey, great question, Eric. It depends. Are you a buyer, seller, investor, or renter? If you do those things alone, it will categorize them into the bucket of buyer, seller, investor, or renter that you can then have a conversation specifically with them about. But if they don't say, and they're a seller and you go down the buyer trail, then you're probably going to lose them and you're not really talking to their needs, right? So you haven't listened. This is about you again. All right. So let's take our mics off for a minute and let me know what comes up for you along this conversation. And then we'll stop the recording and we'll go to Q&A that I can help you with today specifically. So on this dialogue, give me some feedback and what's your takeaways on this? Yes, ma'am. Wendy.
I have been complaining about basically what you've been saying about the realtors in this market and how they've been dictating how we show houses, when we see houses, how we go into a house. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be that agent. So what can I do differently? And so I've started reaching out to other firms here, like when I need open houses, because I'm the only person on my team here, right? So I have other firms doing my open houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And whenever I have someone call me to show a house, I'm like, absolutely, let me confirm for you instead. And I never put text me only. I always say, call me anytime.
Yeah. And so you can't change the war with being one soldier, right?
No.
But you could change your brick by brick.
Yes.
And I believe that becomes attractive. So let's do a role play real quick. And you could see the differences of how easy it is to get in the trenches with them. It's how easy is it to go like this? What the frick? Just like I did in the parking lot. I had no reason to do that. I was sitting there having an amazing day. But because, in my opinion, somewhere inside of me, I knew I was coming in the back part of the parking lot and I knew I beat her there, but I was defensive or I wouldn't have reacted like that. If I had never ever saw her and I looked over and she was waving her arms, I would have went, wonder if she's waving at me or what's going on, right? But because I was emotionally entangled in the situation is, I think, why we react. So Wendy, let's do a role play. You be the agent that's not allowing me to do anything, not allowing me to see it, do it my way, do it anyway, whatever, right?
Okay.
Hey, ring, ring. Hey, Wendy, can we get in to see Apple Street maybe this afternoon?
You know what? We are only taking pre-approved people. We need proof of funds and stuff before you can even show them. And then my sellers really want about 4 hours notice.
Okay, sorry about not giving you enough notice. Maybe if we did it this late evening, would that maybe be all right to give them a little more notice?
I will check with them and make sure, but I know that they like their kids to be done and ready to go to bed by 7.
Yeah, and I apologize. This is the little window that my clients had, but I understand how crazy this market is right now, Wendy. You're having a lot of showing requests and stuff. I see you have a lot of listings, so that's a good thing, but it's a little bit of a challenge, isn't it?
It is.
Is there anything I could do to help you, even outside of this transaction of us looking at this property? Do you need any help with anything?
My sellers are just requesting some feedback when you do see the house, and we're just asking that the sellers are just not wanting anyone through unless they are actually pre-approved and are looking in that price point.
Totally. And I appreciate you bringing that up and reminding me. We definitely don't take people out that haven't been pre-approved. So we do focus on that. So we'll handle that part and make them happy. And I meant like anywhere, not just this listing, but do you need anything that I might be able to lend support to in your business?
I think I'm okay right now, but thank you for asking.
Okay, cool. So I'll do what you asked. First of all, I want to be a good steward of real estate and do what you're asking us to do. And then we'll leave a card and I'll give you some feedback on the house as well. What's the best way to give feedback? Phone call or text? What's best for you?
A text is the best. Text is the best response, please.
Okay, cool. And Wendy, I know you're over there at Remax. I'm here at EXP, but if you need anything in the future, if you get stuck, maybe you need somebody to show a house, you need to borrow a lockbox, whatever it may be, I think we're all in this together. Let me know what I could do to help you, and I will drive out of my way to help if I can.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. All
You
right.
too.
Pause. Right. I may or may not win her over. I may or may not impact that conversation, but I have a lot more opportunities that way, don't I?
Yes.
And ultimately, she's going to get off the phone and say, oh, wow, finally a refreshing, friendly realtor. Most likely. right? So not only is it becoming attractive, and by the way, I didn't go, oh, and if you like EXP, I'd love to talk to you. I didn't do that, right? Or I didn't say, if you love Coldwell Banker, I'd love to, because then it's tied to something for you. I mean, truly impact a room, truly be willing to do something for somebody else that makes you feel good, truly be able to do that, right? When I was leaving the restaurant, I didn't even let the girls know. It was Kirsty and her mom and her sister. I didn't even let them, and I didn't do it because they were there. I would have done this by myself, I promise you. But I didn't even let them know what was going on until we were out in the parking lot. They were like, what was that all about? Because they saw me walk in the kitchen and then come back, and then waitresses were kind of whispering and bringing me 2 checks and stuff. And I said, I just felt like I wanted to do something for them. I felt like I wanted to make their day, wanted to impact the room, right? It was a $60 or $70 impact I made on them. I promise you I changed their morning. I promise I changed their faith in humanity, or whatever it was, whatever story's going on there, right? And maybe it was near nothing at all. Maybe they didn't even realize what was going on. I promise you she did, though, the way she was staring at me during breakfast. She wasn't mad dogging me, but it was really kind of a curious look. And then once she figured out it was me, her language changed. Her body language changed. That made me feel bad. That made me feel not who I'm capable of being, basically. Right now, if I did zero reaction and she was just making those things, I would have said, hey, that's her story. But the fact that I reacted back twice, when she parked and walked by me again, she was still giving me and I was like, what is your problem? Right. And so learn by it a little bit, right? That's still with me. So over the next few weeks, I might forget again, but when I'm going to be much more cautious and conscious about that, who I want to be. Right? Is there any amount of money in the world that makes you be a nice person? There's not, right? So if you're a jackass, if you add a bunch of money to it, you're just going to be a bigger jackass in my book. Wendy.
I'm going to use a great example here for being a jackass. Sorry, anyone that doesn't like that word, but this is a perfect example. I work in Washington and Oregon, and I do more business in Washington than Oregon. So in the last couple months, I've been showing a lot of properties in Pendleton, Oregon, which is in the middle of Beaufort country, Eastern Oregon.
Yeah.
And one of the owners of Coldwell Banker, sorry, anyone that's Coldwell Banker, started calling me so I didn't know the protocols for Pendleton, Oregon. If the house is vacant, you go in the house. You don't need to make sure you're there right at time, because you're not, whatever.
It's a different area, different expectation.
So when I went in there, he started calling me, why the F are you going into my houses when I haven't had a phone call from you? And I said, I'm really sorry, sir. It was vacant and I didn't, and he's like, that's not how we roll here. We need appointments. And so I'm like, I'm really sorry, sir. And I just calmed him down, and now we're good. We have good communication. But my business partner was with me, and she's like, what the hell's wrong with realtors? And I said, it's just a control thing. It's different market. We got it handled. It's all good. And I got him calmed down, and now I'm doing a transaction with his office. But it's like, it's intimidating when you have these people call you and scream at you for,
it is. And this is a great conversation for the call today, because can you control what they do? No, but you can control how you react to the way they do, right? I have lots of really close friends that had the ability to ruin my relationship with them on day one because they were just jerks, right? But real estate, you don't know if they're just a jerk or if their sellers put pressure on them to make that happen. And they're like, oh my gosh, right? It's emotional. It gets back to this being emotional. It really depends what's going on. But my point is, you being the higher person can really change a lot of the situation. Right. And then when we start really laser focusing on who we want to be, who we want our clients to be, that is going to start attracting to you. And I just think there's so much value in this conversation if you embrace it. Because small call, but still, it's likely that it doesn't register with everybody the same, right?
And I find in these really small markets that they don't know you. They're very, very protective of their clients.
Yeah.
So yeah.
again, you can't control what happens outside of you,
Mm-mm.
right? All you can do is control what you do.
And prove that you're a professional and go
Yeah.
take the high road.
Yeah, because my story, when I first sat down, my blood kind of rushed. I was like, man, that's that BITCH right there, right? And I got in the emotional space of like that defensiveness. I was like, this is not who I am. This is not serving me. It's not serving my people sitting at the table. I'm with my family. It really kind of sat with me, not because of the situation that happened outside, but what energy was I in? What place was I in right there? Was I living in my highest and best? And was I going around kissing babies and making a friendly scene like I do in restaurants that is attractive? Or was I in a defensive posture? I was in a defensive posture for a few minutes until I realized it. And that's the beauty of this, is I was able to realize it and do my best to make amends and fix it to my level, right? Nobody else even knew about it. And so when you're looking at your own real estate business, how are you showing up? Is that attractive to others, right? Is it, hey, I really appreciate you letting me know about that. It is different everywhere, but I had no intentions of disrespecting you. It will never happen again. Thanks for letting me know. And you sound like a first-class agent that cares about your clients, right? So even though that may go against your grain a little bit, you certainly don't have to do it. I think there's a lot of value in being that person, and really, again, you don't know where they are impacting their lives potentially through an offer to help or an offer to be nice, whatever it may be. Okay. So any other questions, anything right now? Take your mics off if you want to. Okay, I hearing nothing else. I'm going to take the recording off and we're going to get to Q&A if you have anything that you want off recording.